Hi, I'm Esther. Welcome to Parenting Insight. Now, we're going to begin a series on language, identity, and status in Kenya, a series that I think has been long overdue, the conversation on language. Now, if you're Kenyan, you know that language is not just a mode of communication. Language in Kenya is used to subtly determine a little bit more about a person. So I think it's time that we have this conversation. It's been long overdue. But I think it's going to be an amazing discovery because the reason why I came up with this series is I would like to share a mental perspective on language, how language is formed in our minds, how we construct sentences, how we communicate to each other. This series will hopefully bring to light the huge role that the mind has on our language and how the mind actually is very crucial to helping us construct meaning from the world based on the language that we speak. Being multilingual, which most Kenyans are because I am Kenyan, and Kenya has two national languages, which is English and Swahili, and most Kenyans also speak their tribal language, which means most Kenyans do actually speak three basic languages, and this is a good thing. This is something to celebrate. But yet, I feel like we have a negative interaction with some languages. And the reason why I have localized the examples in this series, why I have titled it Language, Identity and Status in Kenya, is because I think it would help us to make meaning if we give examples that are applicable, that are in context. But really, the conversation on language and on being multilingual and the different aspects of society that language is involved in, I think this conversation goes beyond the borders of Kenya. I think this is really a global conversation. It's just that maybe another country may not be having a conversation about two national languages and tribal languages. But I think the whole conversation on being multilingual and how we as human beings perceive language, how sometimes we give status to language, how language is used as to give identity and to derive subtle meanings about people. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. The idea of exploring the topic on language was as a result of the fact that I work with children, and I have worked with children who do not read in class or have selective mutism purely because they've been shamed for having tribal accents, which in Kenya, I feel that we give a very negative word to it. We call it shrubbing. You will be surprised that shrubbing is not actually a legit name. So a Google search was actually quite unproductive because this is something very exclusive to Kenya. I did do a Google search on the meaning of the word shrubbing, which to a larger extent just assumed that I'm Googling what a shrub is. So it gave meanings on a plant. But I did get this one meaning, which I still think did not do justice to describing what shrubbing is, but I will read the one meaning that I was able to come across on Google. Google search defined shrubbing as transitive Kenyan English, which means to mispronounce a word by replacing its consonant sounds or its consonant sound with another or others of a similar place of articulation. Now, I think to an extent it is, the definition is not absolutely wrong. I think, yes, there is the aspect of replacing vowels, and I will actually be giving examples of these, but I think it's also not very accurate because the replacement is not just for vowels, it's also replacement of consonants. If you know anything about Kenyan accents, you know that shrubbing is not just about consonants, but also vowels. We sometimes replace one vowel with another. Sometimes we delete consonants, and I will be giving, like I mentioned, examples on these just to bring to light what we're trying to talk about. And the beauty of this is that there is a reason for everything. There's a reason for why different tribes in Kenya seem to have a challenge pronouncing different sounds. And I have found this to be very exciting because it means we can actually understand why. And even if we appreciate that different tribes have different accents, have different challenges with pronouncing certain sounds, even if we make fun and have fun in this, that it should not be used in a manner that is demeaning to another person. For purposes of this video, we're going to simplify the meaning of shrubbing and define it as the interference of mother tongue on the English language. I think it's not just the interference of mother tongue on the English language. I think it's actually on spoken language, because I don't think we consider misspellings to be shrubs. I think we say when somebody misspells something, we don't call it shrubbing, we call it misspelling. Or we call it poor sentence construction or something of sorts. I think what we consider shrubbing is usually more on spoken English. So I think the description of shrubbing is very exclusive to spoken English. I could be wrong and I stand to be corrected, but I think it's more geared towards spoken English. I also Googled the meaning of mother tongue, and here are the two definitions that I came across, and I'll read them out. So Google defines mother tongue as the language which a person has grown up speaking from early childhood. The definition is that a mother tongue is the first language that you learn as a baby rather than a language that is learned at school. Okay, so I think these two definitions do justice to what mother tongue is, so we're going to hold on to them. Now, the reason why I feel that this conversation is important is because when we understand and realize that language is not just a simple process, that by the time somebody is speaking, there's a lot of activity that happens behind the scenes in our minds. And so language is really a brain activity. And I think when we start appreciating the magnitude to which the mind interacts and dictates the way we speak, the way we read, the way we write, the way we construct sentences, the way we understand words and derive meaning from the world, I think we start appreciating the fact that being multilingual is actually a super amazing thing. And I think Kenyans need to take pride in the fact that we are a multilingual nation. We have two national languages, which is English and Swahili, and most Kenyans, as I mentioned, also speak their tribal dialect. So at bare minimum, I think every Kenyan speaks at least two languages. And I think this is a beautiful thing. This is something that we should be celebrating. And I think once we understand how the mind influences how we speak, I think terms like shrubbing just need to become obsolete. I think words like shrubbing should not even exist, because we do not use it in a positive way. And the reason why I think it's supposed to be a demeaning word, and again, I stand to be corrected, but I honestly don't think we use the word shrubbing in positive light, is because we don't say that the German, the French accents are considered shrubs. We don't say that someone who speaks in a French accent, a German accent, a Dutch accent, an Australian accent, a British accent is shrubbing. So I think this is a term that we have coined sort of to imply that our accents are inferior. And I'm sorry, but I just think it's time that we had this conversation about the fact that in a sad way, there are some languages that are considered superior to others. And I think it's time that we started looking into the realities of these, because I don't think there's any language that should be superior to any other or inferior to any other. I think languages are just different. And I think we need to delete this notion that there is one particular way of speaking and that there is one perfect accent that we should all have, because that in a very dynamic society like Kenya is really next to impossible. So in the next series, I will use myself as an example. I will share a little bit about myself, my growing up, my upbringing, and the different languages that I speak and how I interact with these different languages, or rather not how I interact with them, because I've realized a lot of how we use language is very subconscious, so how these languages sort of come to play in different facets of my life, and how different languages that I acquired at different times in my formative years continue to sort of play out in my life. And the reason why, of course, I'm using myself as an example is one, I don't think it's appropriate to use somebody else as an example, but also too, because really there's no shame in trying to understand who we are. And as an individual, I hope that you can now go back and look at how you interact with language and start making sense of the reason why your core language is your core language. And then if you speak, for example, if you're Kenyan and you speak, let's say, the three languages, start finding out, to which extent you speak one language, and if there are different times when you use certain languages and all that. But just really mostly to understand just how much the mind actually determines how you use language. And I think when we understand that the mind is actually the decision maker, we will stop shaming each other. Kids will stop laughing at another child in class for having a tribal accent and for pronouncing something in a non-English way, and just start appreciating that every time you hear someone speak in a way that is different from you, or when you listen to people speak and they sound different from you, or when you sound different from other people, then that we start just understanding that it's just the same way we don't laugh at each other for some people being tall and others being short, and some people being having a darker complexion than others. It's just really one of the other many aspects of human diversity that we truly, truly need to embrace. So stay tuned for part 2, where I'll be trying to share my story in context of language, and hopefully be able to bring to life what we're trying to learn together. And there'll be many parts to this series, so stay tuned, and let's learn together and see if we can finally get rid of some of these perceptions we have about language in Kenya. Remember, videos on this channel are meant for information purposes only. They're not meant to replace professional therapy, so if you need professional help, please go ahead and contact a therapist. Also, if you like the content on this channel, we put up information on child development and parenting. Please go ahead and click on the subscribe button so that you can keep getting more information as we continue to share. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for the subsequent videos, and see you on the next one.